Thank you for listening to the Agile Standup, the show where we talk about all things related to Agile, Scrum, and Kanban, leaving no subject professional, unprofessional, awesome, insensitive, or otherwise untouched. Today, we are going to discuss what is a Scrum Master, what do they do, and what are their official and unofficial responsibilities. Okay, so we're going to start with what is a Scrum Master in general. Christine, would you like to start us off with that one?
Yeah, so a Scrum Master is a team member, right? So there's a bunch of people on the team. You've got your devs, you've got the PO who's responsible for the product and the vision. Then you have this Scrum Master, right? And that's the question is, who is a Scrum Master? What does a Scrum Master do? You know, it's one of those things where people understand it, but they always want to know exactly what does a Scrum Master do on the team. Scrum Master I feel like it's a pretty darn special role on a team, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think there's so many things that you do for a team day in and day out. And it's not even so much that you do for the team because you're part of the team, right? But you're working with the team to do a variety of things. And those things can be part of your official responsibilities and part of your unofficial responsibilities, right? That are defined in your job description.
Right. And those vary from company to company. But I think, Christine, you touched on something very important there, which is what is the official and unofficial responsibilities. And I think you could probably kick us off on what the official responsibilities are, and then we'll
we can go back and forth on this one because I think,
both of us know
both
it
of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's good to have some dialogue, right?
Yeah.
So I think we were saying earlier that there is some confusion in organizations on what that exact Scrum.
That's okay. Scrum Master.
Scrum. On what the role of a Scrum Master is.
And we see that.
And how to measure
right.
Scrum Master performance. I always hear that a lot.
Well, so we always see that too in the job requirements across companies, is that when it comes out, I'm sure you and I have definitely looked at them together and kind of go, look at what this company wants. This is what this company, everybody's understanding of what a Scrum Master from a company wide point of view is really different. Sometimes it's more focused on, sometimes it's very mechanical, sometimes it's very open.
But can I just tell you that, for the record, we are not project managers.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not project
managers.
We're not project managers.
Right.
Yeah. We are not there to push tasks on people or we're not there to do that.
No, right. And that's the other thing too, is that I think, just to kind of go into the official responsibilities, is that we're more about presenting and preserving the Agile core values within the team and the organization. So I think that's kind of a good place to start as far as the official responsibilities. And then, of course, guiding the team through the process and explaining the process to the organization. That's the big thing that I always drive in my organization and my previous organization, is education, making sure that everybody knows at least what a Scrum Master is, what Agile is, what Scrum is, what Kanban is, when and why to use either of those, which we've done in a previous episode. But that's extremely important.
So no, I think what you're saying is spot on. And I think it's great because that's what we do, right? We guide people through the process. We explain it to the organization and how it operates, from what sprints are, what grooming is. But I do want to touch a little bit on present and preserve the Agile core values within the team and the organization, because something about Agile is, you can look back to the manifesto and you can look to the actual principles and
they're commandments, really.
So you can go back and look at those, but I think as a Scrum Master, you really want to make sure that you're educating the organization on what the manifesto means and what the principles of the manifesto means, because a lot of that is how teams work and operate together. So I think as a Scrum Master, you're definitely there to present it. That could be through PowerPoint presentations. It could be through lunch and learn, a variety of things.
Lunch and learn.
Yeah, lunch and learn. You grab your lunch and you come and sit through this presentation.
Those,
But I think it's really important, though. I think it's really important because as teams change or as people leave an organization, you're going to get new people in that may not be familiar. So I think it's really important in your role to make sure that you're educating
Right.
everyone on what it means. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really important one, actually.
Is just education in general.
Yeah, education on the Agile core principles and values.
Yeah, because you develop that, hopefully you can foster that understanding within your organization, because if you're not doing Agile, you're doing something else. And in my experience, it's been waterfall mostly. I mean, and especially the places that I've been in, it's very hardcore. We've been doing this forever. Why change it? People have an understanding of waterfall, and it's just the usual thing. It's easy for them to almost go onto autopilot and just carry it out. And having this radical thing, and to be honest, Agile itself is not very radical when you understand it and sit down and really observe it. But it is radical to somebody who doesn't understand it and doesn't want to understand it. That's the thing too, is people just,
not that they don't want to, it's
well, they don't want to learn.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they just refuse, maybe.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I will not open my mind to this. Yeah, no way.
But I think it's super cool. I think it's super cool to constantly engage with people and remind them of that, because, some people make the assumption that Agile is a framework.
No.
But they don't realize that it's a mindset.
Yes.
Like, you really have to change behavior and the way people think
Right.
about Agile in order to make it successful.
And it's values. I mean, it's and that's the kind of thing, and it may sound sappy when you say, oh, it's a set of values. But yeah, I mean, not only is it a mindset, we're talking about these are things that you should operate by.
Right.
And I do not at all want to say the word rules, but they're values. They're good things to instill. They're pleasant things to make the human element comfortable. That goes a long way to this. And that's exactly what Agile, I don't want to say exactly what it is, but that's a huge part of it.
Well, remember, it's a huge change, especially for any organization who's adopting it for the very first time.
Oh, yeah.
It's completely changes the way
in
you
that
think
sense,
and
it's
do
radical.
things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do need people to be open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's helpful. So,
yeah.
guiding the team through the process in the organization. So you want to talk about the framework and the process?
The framework. Yeah, right. So the framework, of course, and process, we're kind of using those. I think you and I use them interchangeably, because we're talking mostly about Scrum work. Scrum framework. Yes. We're talking about Scrum versus Kanban, and they're two different methods in order to achieve the goal of the organization or the goal of the team, whatever that may be. And again, we can apply these styles, Agile, of course, and Scrum and Kanban, to any type of industry. But I think in your and I industry, in our industries, we're definitely looking at software development here, as is the majority of it. But for the frameworks, we are referring to Scrum and Kanban.
So not only does the Scrum Master guide the team through the process and explain it and help the organization understand it and adopt it, because there is a lot of adoption that needs to take place around that, right? Around the framework. It's different.
Yeah.
Different. Completely different. Especially if you're used to waterfall. But I think the other thing that's really important, for Scrum Master, part of the responsibility is to make sure you do everything you possibly can or within your power to keep distractions outside of the team. So you don't want the team hearing all the outside noise. So you really got to shield the team.
Right. And one thing that I've done, whether or not, it's going to be appreciated, and it's not anything against any particular role or person or anything, is I've experienced in my organization, meetings will start from, for example, there was a point when I first got on with one of the organizations that I was with, where we had a stand-up where there was over 40 people invited to the stand-up.
That's a big stand-up.
But it's because everybody wanted to be included. And there would be some times where we would have 30 people show up to stand up on a team of 10. And it's like, what are the other 20 people doing there? And ultimately, it kind of turned into a question and answer thing for the people that would occasionally show up. And it really got away from the whole stand-up thing. So one thing that's kind of radical that I did was I canceled the invite completely, and then pretty much I manually invited only the team members, and just kind of waited for any feedback to see who is missing this. And we didn't get any of that. So making sure that the right people are in attendance and the team is protected in the sense that they aren't necessarily being bashed, or people aren't coming in to ask intrusive questions. It's just that making sure that stand-up is a good, conducive place to work, getting your point across, and just getting visibility to everybody, as opposed to being questioned and interrogated by outside sources. So that's just a long way around kind of example of way that you can protect the team as a Scrum Master.
So yeah, just definitely a way of protecting the team from that outside noise. I think part of that too, though, is educating folks on what a stand-up is, right?
Right.
So,
and we come back to the education thing.
Yeah,
Totally.
it all goes back to the education thing. You definitely want to educate people that, hey, and just to use it as an example, because you talked about stand-up from shielding the team from outside influences, is, hey, you're welcome to join our stand-up if you want to see where something is. But you go back to the whole, these are the pigs on the team.
Yeah.
And you're a chicken.
I just did a presentation on that. Yeah, right.
So if you have any questions, save them, right? Don't interrupt the team in the middle of a stand-up session. You want to listen in, no problem. But the stand-up needs to be 15 minutes or less, right? And it's about the team to kind of let each other know what they're working on, or if they have any impediments, right?
Right.
And yeah, anyone's free to listen in on those. But again, the minute people start jumping in and talking who are not part of the core team is where you come in and you basically let them know, hey. And I think that's kind of good too, because when you show that you're protecting the team and the team sees that, I feel like the team starts to gain a lot of confidence in you as a Scrum Master.
Absolutely.
And they know that you're looking out for them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And it's
huge.
Yeah. And they really appreciate that. I mean, I see that all the time, and some of my team members will come to me for any little type of thing at all. And you really at that point become the leader of the team. Whereas, just to kind of put it in comparison, so we all are aware of the responsibilities of the product owner, but whereas the product owner is more focused on the product, the Scrum Master is going to be focused on the team, the people, making sure that the process is observed.
But sometimes you actually have to protect the team from the product owner.
Yes, you do.
That gets tricky.
That's an excellent segue, yeah.
Because you're
all on the same team.
Yeah, we're on the same team.
Yep.
We all have to get along, but sometimes the product owner can start making the team feel like they have to do certain things. So that's a really interesting balance.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly right, because the product owner is under pressure from the stakeholders, right, and then, other entities within their organization. And then the Scrum Master, of course, working very closely, or as closely as possible with the product owner, may not see all the time. And that can come out in various forms from the product owner, whether it's being pushy, being unreasonable with deadlines. And we do look to the product owner in order to present those deadlines to us as to what the end user wants. But it's up to the Scrum Master, at least the idea is to get the team to say, oh, we're looking to this. We, as the Scrum Masters, want the team to focus on the work and focus on the deliverable, rather than focus on any extraneous politics or having to push back on any deadlines. There is absolutely pushback in there, but hopefully the Scrum Master can protect the team from. I think that's what you and I are saying there. But just to kind of move it along real quick. So we talked about the official responsibilities. What about some unofficial responsibilities? And these can range from very minute things to really outrageous things, and I think you and I have both experienced that.
Yeah. So one of the things I find sometimes is that as a Scrum Master, people assume that you're kind of like the secretary.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And you're like, yeah.
Can you schedule this on the calendar? Can you put that there?
Or can you send this email for me?
Do you know the status of this?
It's really interesting because Scrum Master is not a secretary. I mean, you're definitely there to help the team in any way you can, but you're not a secretary. Yeah, no, right? Exactly. And the Scrum Master, on the whole secretary thing, though, even though the Scrum Master facilitates these, I would say the majority of the Scrum ceremonies, the Scrum Master is not there, just kind of an example, they're not there to open stories for the team, and they're not there to
to write stories for the team. I mean, that's just not the role of the Scrum Master. And even then, at that point, the Scrum Master, ideally, the Scrum Master is educated on the tools that the organization use, on the product that the team is developing, but they are not the expert. And at that point, they just become the scribe. And the Scrum Master is also not a scribe in the same sense that they're not a secretary.
Yeah, I've had people ask me to enter acceptance data for stories, and I'm like, wait, yeah, it's really for the team or the PO to come up with that. It's not for me to create acceptance criteria. So, yeah, it's interesting how sometimes you can be viewed as a secretary or scriber.
Exactly. But on a positive thing, those were some kind of negative things, and we understand that, but that's the name of the game, is the balance. But the Scrum Master is there to do whatever it takes for the team to be comfortable and successful. So one thing too is that the Scrum Master can also be a champion for the team in that they need to work with the organization in order to secure some research or training opportunities that will help improve the team overall, whether it's from development or maybe just learning a new tool, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a Scrum Master, and I know that this, as a Scrum Master, this comes up in retrospectives, it's the team will look at the existing technology and they'll say, hey, by the way, there's this other technology that I think might save us some time and I think it'd be great. So, you, as a Scrum Master, you take those items out of retrospective and you work back with leadership to say, hey, this is what the team discovered. It's a good learning opportunity. Do you think we can look into having the team do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know before we started recording this particular episode, I know that Christine, you and I were talking about some personal experiences from both our areas or both of the organizations that we've been in. And we kind of wish we'd hit the record button, I think, at that time, but we were kind of looking at what the Scrum Master is definitely not. And it's definitely Scrum Master. I think one of the things you called out where they're definitely not a developer or a QA tester.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you had mentioned the Scrum Master, in your experience, people will assume that the Scrum Master has a lot of time on their hands. Like mm-hmm. they are only just there to say, oh, hey, move this across the board, or no, you can't do this because this is not agile, or stuff like that, which is totally not the case. But I think some people assume, oh, the Scrum Master can pick up any QA testing or...
that's a tricky one because oftentimes organizations are just starting out and they don't really understand what sometimes they don't understand that the Scrum Master role is a full-time role. Mm-hmm. And so you'll see like a lead developer filling in the Scrum Master role. You'll see a QA tester filling in the Scrum Master role part-time.
But that's what we want.
Well, hold on. So I'm not a big fan of having like somebody who's actually doing the development work also play the Scrum Master role because I feel it kind of messes with...
Well, no, but what if you're gone for a week? I mean, don't we want the self-organizing team?
No, you absolutely, your whole job as a Scrum Master is to how do you say, make it a self-organized team that can operate as a well-oiled engine when you're not there. So some organizations will have a lead developer, lead QA fill in the Scrum Master role. And I feel like that can work. I mean, our job is to build a team that can basically, you can walk away from and they understand the rules and they understand the principles and the practices and they can continue to operate like a well-oiled engine, right? But I think that if you're going to have those dual roles on a team, that person needs to take a step back when they have to play Scrum Master and not step into that lead developer role or that QA tester role, right? You have to wear the Scrum Master hat, which means that you have to stand back and you have to make sure that the sprint looks healthy and you can't start pushing tasks on people, right?
I see that.
You have to be the Scrum Master role. But if you have a full-time Scrum Master on a team, and that's what they are, you don't start loading this, or you don't expect the Scrum Master to help develop, or you don't have them do the QA testing, right? Because those are team commitments that the software engineering team committed to, not the Scrum Master, but the development, the engineering team. So in those cases, you have a full Scrum Master on a team. They're not responsible for the development work. Oh, and one more thing to understand is that Scrum Master, we're not there to fire people. We're not a manager on the team
Right.
to fire people, right? As a Scrum Master, if you have a team member who's not working well for a team, you're basically removing the impediment on the team, and maybe you find a better fit for that team member, right? There's another team out there that the person can work with, but you're definitely not there to fire anyone. So, yeah, oftentimes people will come to you and ask you very specific questions in order to fire someone, and
that's an interesting one.
Yeah, you're not there to do that, right? Yeah, so that gets really tricky.
Firing. So you're fired. I'm just the Scrum Master,
but
you're
the Scrum
fired.
Master.
Yeah,
and that's what people don't understand is Scrum Masters. How do you say this? You're a servant leader. But you're not, you don't have authority. Like, that's the thing, is you don't have authority. Your role there is to really influence the team to come to its own decisions and conclusions. You can't tell the team, hey, this is what I want you to do. You're there to say, hey, so this is what happened. What can we do something better? What can we do? Right? So it's all through influence. So going back to that is we're definitely not there to fire people.
And on that, thank you for playing along with us on the Agile Stand-Up. Today, we discussed what is a Scrum Master, what do they do, and what are their unofficial and official responsibilities. Christine, do we have any impediments?
Yeah, John, if we want to continue this podcast, you go get me some donuts. You're a Scrum Master.
All right, you're right. You're right. Sorry. I need to do that as Scrum Master.
But no impediments. I think we're good to go.
I love it. All right.